StudyIQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Hello, namaskar, namaskara, namaskaram, namaskar. My name is Pooja Devedi. Welcome to my class. The Daily Current Affairs aims to tell you how to tackle with UPSC preliminary examination. It will also aim to give you the sufficient knowledge that is required for your mains examination. Do not worry about note making because I provide the notes through my Telegram channel that is by the name of Pooja Devedi UPSC. If you have any queries regarding this examination, you can also talk to me on my Instagram. Now, before I begin, I would like to tell you about the evening batches and the long-term batches that UPSC that StudyIQ has come up with. These are long-term batches. As in for UPSC 2025, we have come up with a P2I batch. P2I means prelims, mains and interviews. We are going to prepare you for everything, not only GS but CSAT, SA, ethics and the rest as well. So make sure that you take cognizance of the situation and of course enroll in this particular segment as quick as possible. These will start from 16th September, evening batches 6 p.m. onwards, and these will be live classes. Study material is provided. Along with that, you will also get prelims test series, mains test series, daily answer writing practice, and the rest. So just make sure that you use the code PD Live so that you can get it at 35,999. Generally, price is 70,000 for Hindi, English, and English. Now let's begin with our class. These are the various events that we have to cover. First, let's talk about India-ASEAN Summit. Consider the following statements about the ASEAN-India Summit. India has invited ASEAN countries to join Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Timor-Leste participated in the summit as a new permanent member, and the 20th ASEAN-India Summit was held at Manila. So we have to see how many of the statements given above is or are correct. See, the India-ASEAN Summit got established in the year 2002, and that was in Cambodia. And in 1992, India started its engagement with the ASEAN. ASEAN is a very important pillar of our Look East and Act East policy. And that is why it is important to continuously engage with them. That is why we established the India-ASEAN Summit. And since its inception, we have not missed even one summit. This is the significance of it. So recently, India presented Prime Minister Modi when he went to Jakarta for the India-ASEAN Summit and not Manila. This 20th ASEAN Summit, India-ASEAN Summit, was conducted in Jakarta. So remember that as well. So when India went there, we called out for a 12-point program in which many important things such as the digital public infrastructure, coalition for disaster resilience, everything was discussed. So the first statement is correct that India has invited ASEAN countries to join coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure because these are the countries which have a coastline. That is why these countries are vulnerable to all sorts of attacks. Timor-Leste participated in the summit as an observer and not a permanent member, because here it is written a new permanent member. It has not become a permanent member as of yet. And the 20th ASEAN-India Summit was held in Jakarta. First is correct, second is not correct, third is also not correct. How many are correct? One only will be the correct answer. The Prime Minister reaffirmed ASEAN centrality in the Indo-Pacific. We want free and open Indo-Pacific. We know that there are many ASEAN countries with which China is at loggerheads with because of its overlapping claims on the South China Sea. Now, India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, ASEAN's outlook on the Indo-Pacific, these all are convergent. That means the outlook towards the Indo-Pacific is convergent for India as well as the ASEAN. Prime Minister Modi emphasized the need to complete the review of the ASEAN-India FTA, Free Trade Agreement, in a time-bound manner so that we can enhance our trade relations. What is ASEAN? ASEAN is a regional grouping of Southeast Asian countries. It comprises of 10 members and it came into existence through the Bangkok Declaration in 1967. And the founding members, there are 5 founding members. These are Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and Philippines. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 are founding members. The rest of the 5 joined at a later period of time. So UPSC can ask us to differentiate between them. I have reiterated this in many of my classes and I tell you about it over and over again. Why? Because I want these information to be etched in your memory. Sometimes by just looking at this, you can understand that which countries are, even if I do not tell you, if I have repeated it multiple times in many of my classes, it will get etched in your memory, and then you will be able to visualize through this map better, and then mark the correct answer if it is asked in your preliminary examination. The 12-point proposal for strengthening India's relationship with ASEAN is establishing multimodal connectivity and economic corridor to connect India with Southeast Asia and the Southeast Asia through India to Middle East, that is West Asia for us, and Europe. Right now we see that India, Middle East, Europe corridor has been established. And now we need to connect Southeast Asia as well, because Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, and that is why it is important that a new corridor is established. And other than that, offered to share India's digital public infrastructure stack with the partners such as UPI, apps such as CoWin, all these could be included. Announced ASEAN India's Fund for Digital Future, focusing on cooperation in digital transformation and financial connectivity. India has already shown its stature with respect to being a digitized country. Announced renewal of support to Economic and Research Institute of ASEAN and East Asia to act as knowledge partner for enhancing our engagement. Call for collectively raising issues being faced by Global South and multilateral fora. We have already seen that how African Union became a part of the G20. So this was all done at the initiation of India and under the India's presidency. It is being, India is being touted as the voice of the Global South, because India is trying to ensure that no one gets left behind. And this is our policy. So that is why it is important to include all the countries in South Asia. Invited ASEAN countries to join Global Center for Traditional Medicine being established by WHO in India. This is in Jamnagar, Gujarat. Jamnagar, Gujarat. Traditional medicines are a group of practices such as Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, that is being practiced not only in India but all Southeast Asian, most of the Southeast Asian countries, Asian countries as well. Call for working together on Mission Life. Offered to share India's experience in providing affordable and quality medicines to people through Jan Aushadhi Kendras, and call for collective fight against terrorism, terror financing and cyber disinformation. You know that 12-point program is important from the perspective of your not only the prelims examination but also the mains examination. Another point that UPSC can raise over here is just list the important points and then ask you that which of the given above or the following points have been a part of the 12-point proposal that the Prime Minister of India recently iterated during the India-ASEAN Summit or the 20th India-ASEAN Summit. Okay. Invited ASEAN countries to join Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, called for cooperation in disaster management, for enhanced cooperation in maritime safety. This is of course against any sort of trying to unilaterally shift the tenacity rig, shift the territories in South China Sea. Security and domain awareness. There are two joint statements, one on maritime cooperation and the other on food security. These were adopted. And in addition to India and ASEAN leaders, Timor-Leste participated in the summit as observer. Alright, here is Timor-Leste. Let's move forward. With respect to the Global Biofuel Alliance, consider the following statements. This is a very tricky question. If you have, attended one of my classes that I took, I think it was yesterday. Yes, yesterday I took a class about the outcomes of the G20 under India's presidency. I have in depth talked about the Global Biofuel Alliance. If you have attended that class, you will be able to answer this question very well. It is a collective initiative of the G20 and comprises of all the members of the G20. It also will provide a virtual market for biofuels in addition to the capacity building of involved countries. Bangladesh has an observer status in the alliance. So, how many statements given above is or are correct? The Global Biofuel Alliance is an initiation of certain countries such as the USA, India, Brazil. USA and Brazil are leaders in the production of ethanol, and that is why these two countries had to be there. India has also tasted success when it comes to blending ethanol with fuels, other fuels. Specifically, we did it much before the November 2022 deadline that was given last year. Now we want to have it up, we want to expand it pan-country, the entire country. So that is why we need to have allies which are working in a similar fashion. But mind you, not all G20 countries are a part of it. There are certain countries that are a part of it, and you have to remember, just because it was launched at the G20 summit does not mean that it is a collective initiative of the G20. So first statement is incorrect. Yes, just capacity building is not enough. I have built capacity of the involved countries, but when they have started producing, they want a market or not. So a virtual market is also there, will also be developed, which will put all the important stakeholders, industries, academias together in order to understand how we can trade in the trade in the biofuels, so that we can shift from general fossil fuels, general conventional energy to new energy. Okay, and Bangladesh has an observer status in the alliance. No, it is Singapore and Canada that have an observer status. Bangladesh is a part of the alliance, all right, although it's not a G20 country, but it is a guest. It was a guest at the G20. So first is incorrect, second is correct, third is incorrect. Let me just see. Yes, first incorrect, third incorrect, second is correct. How many are correct? One only will be the correct answer. It is spearheaded by India, United States, and Brazil. Other countries also include Argentina, Bangladesh, Italy, Mauritius, South Africa, and the United Arab Emirates. Canada and Singapore are observer, and 19 countries and 12 international organizations have already joined it. As you can see beside me is a picture that is going to show you. Initiating members include Argentina, Bangladesh, Brazil, India, Italy, USA, UAE, South Africa, Mauritius. There are 7 G20 countries. Argentina is a G20 country, Brazil is, India is, Italy is, South Africa is, UAE is, and USA is. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 members are initiating. They have started it. Observer members, they have not become a member as of yet. They are just going to observe. They might join as a permanent member later on. So we have Canada and Singapore as observer. UPSC can ask us observer as well. Alright. And 7 of the 19 countries, I have already told you this. 4 are among the G20 invitees and 8 are neither G20 members nor invitees. So it is becoming inclusive. It is not only so that G20 is there, G20 has started it. Only G20 will develop, not other countries will develop. The World Bank, Asian Development Bank, World Economic Forum, International Energy Agency, International Energy Forum, International Renewable Energy Agency, and International Civil Aviation Organization have already joined it. US and Brazil are seen as leaders in global biofuels. 52% is by the US, and Brazil contributes 30% of the global ethanol production. Capacity building exercise will be done along with value chain. Technical support will be given for national programs. Promotion of policy lessons will be given, and mobilizing a virtual marketplace. All this is a part of it. With respect to India-Saudi Arabia relations, consider the following statements. Saudi Arabia hired highest number of Indian workers in 2022. It is the second largest Indian diaspora after the UAE in the Gulf. Bilateral trade between the two countries reached an all-time high of $52.75 billion in fiscal year 2022-23. So which of the statements is or are correct? See, sometimes students do ask me, ma'am, do we need to remember data or not? Anything that is significant, like historic high, this is significant, something that was never registered before. So yes, data sometimes is important from the perspective of both prelims and mains. Prelims because of course a factual question can be formulated, mains because you have to be better than your other peers, right? If you provide extra value in your answer writing, then only you will stand out. So that is why it is important to remember certain times data as well. If you're not very sure about the data, always use approx $52.75 billion. Even if you remember it, trust me, it is going to help you a lot, because the examiner can sometimes do, they can Google it, and if they find that you haven't written approx and went to directly put out the data, they can deduct marks. So that is why don't do that. Always try to introduce approximately. Bilateral trade between the two countries reached at an all-time high of this much, $52.75 billion. In which fiscal year? 2022-23. I could have written 2021-2022. And if you would have remembered that data but not the year, again, you could have been bound by it. So, first is correct, second is also correct. Both are correct, both 1 and 2 are the correct answer. Recently, we know that Saudi Arabia came to India because of the G20, but separately, Saudi Arabia's crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, who is also, very prominent in Saudi Arabia, he was accorded a state visit for the bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister. And this is very symbolic in nature. That means we are trying to elevate our partnership that has been given a lot of improvement, that has seen a lot of improvement under the current government. That is definitely true. Bilateral trade between the two countries have reached at an all-time high of $52.75 billion in the year 2022-23, and mid-2014, the major things that have dominated, the major sectors that have dominated our relationship with Saudi Arabia has been, of course, defense is very important, trade is very important, and even technology is also now dominating the landscape of relationship. September 11th was the day when the first leaders meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council was co-chaired by Saudi Arabia and India. All right. So these kind of questions could come. Please pay close attention to what I said over here, because another related question is there so that you can answer it correctly. Now, America is one of the few countries with which India has a trade surplus. There is UAE, which is our third largest trading partner. After that, we have Saudi Arabia. So these countries are standing out. China is also among the top four. We have to understand from the perspective of our examination that we keep abreast with the changing trading partners. And whenever you are going to give an examination, sometimes it can happen that you remember the old ones and not the new ones. So remember to check it first. Okay. Moving on. Saudi Arabia, when the Prime Minister of India went to Saudi Arabia in 2016 on a visit, he was conferred with the Arabian country's highest civilian honor. That was the King Abdulaziz Sash. Okay, and the Prime Minister of India gifted the then King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud a gold-plated replica of the Cheraman Juma Masjid in Kerala. Here is the Cheraman Juma Masjid. Beautiful. And it is believed that this was the first mosque built in India by Arab traders in 629 AD. Remember, a Prelims fact. MOU on Defense and Cooperation was also signed during the visit of the Crown Prince to India in February 2014. That was also acknowledged. Now, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has witnessed a five-fold jump in the number of Indian workers moving to the country for employment by recruiting the highest labor force among the Gulf country in 2022. Alright, next question. With respect to the Matsya 6000 submersible, which of the statement is not correct? It is made up of titanium alloy. It is designed by the National Institute of Ocean Technology. It has an extendable time under the sea for up to 196 hours in emergencies, and it can carry up to 3 people. So we have to select the statement which is not correct. Recently, it has been tweeted by the Union Minister Kiran Rijiju that we are ready to go with the undersea trials of the Matsya 6000, which is under the Deep Ocean Mission of India. It is a submersible. Do you remember Titan? It is made up of titanium alloy, Matsya 6000, so that it doesn't implode like the Titan did, which went for looking for Titanic wreckage, if you remember it. So option A is correct. It is designed by National Institute of Ocean Technology is also correct. The Ministry of Earth Sciences is the nodal agency for this particular project. It has an extendable time under the sea for up to 96 hours and not 196 hours. So C is not correct. It can carry up to 3 people. This is Samudrayan. So C is incorrect. Next is Samudrayan. We have done so well when it comes to Chandrayaan 3. Aditya L1 is also going fine. So now we need to explore the deep sea as well. So that is why this particular mission. The marine submersible, it has been designed and developed by National Institute of Ocean Technology, Chennai. This Matsya 6000 is basically a larger part of the Samudrayan under the Deep Ocean Mission, and it costs 4,076 crore, the entire project. And the first unmanned and manned sea trials, both. First we will send it without any people inside, and then with people inside. It will be done at 500 kilometers of depth, possibly in the Bay of Bengal, and that will be in the beginning of 2024. Proper, after the sea trials, it is expected that by 2026 we will launch it with people. Critical parameters will be reviewed, of course, after the implosion of Titan, and sensors will be developed so that we can find them out. If the submersible goes somewhere, there can be, a link with it. It doesn't like just collapse within and we do not know anything about it. Now, researchers will communicate through acoustic waves. Also remember this. And it can go up to 6,000 meters. That is why Matsya 6,000, which is of course 6 kilometers, up to 6 kilometers. And of course, there are certain countries which have already went through an indigenous manned submersible. So India wants to join this particular league of countries as well. We have USA, Russia, Japan, France and China. Remember that. Apart from India, India will of course succeed. Apart from our country, USA, Russia, Japan, France and China have also done that. Okay, and you can see width is 4 meter, height is 4.5 meter and length is 9 meters. Sometimes UPSC can ask you this amount of data as well. It can do anything. We do not want to predict this examination anymore. It's unpredictable. Why we are calling it unpredictable? It's not unpredictable as in that you can't do anything about it. You can do anything. You can do many things. You can be very well prepared with the concepts. You can be well prepared with many things. But sometimes UPSC will throw questions like you may not be ever able to do. And that is why it is called unpredictable. But there will be a majority of questions that you will be able to do. So you have to concentrate on the majority of questions. That is why I'm not leaving any stone unturned. So remember these as well. All right. Then also, of course, it has an endurance of 12 hours generally. But if there is emergency, with life support, it can go for up to 96 hours. All right. Oxygen will be supplied and CO2 will be extracted from the spares. Hope you understood it. With respect to the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council, I asked you to pay close attention to what I said in the India-Saudi Arabia relationship. This will help you here. Consider the following statements. The pact to establish the Strategic Partnership Council was signed in 2019 and the first summit level meeting was conducted in 2022. It has two main pillars, namely Committee on Political Security, Social and Cultural Cooperation and Committee on Economy and Investment. India is only the second country to have a FPC with Saudi Arabia. So how many are correct? Is or are correct? The Strategic Partnership Council was established in 2019 when our Prime Minister went to Saudi Arabia. So that is correct. But after the G20 summit, because Saudi Arabia was here, we conducted our first summit level meeting. Okay. So that wasn't in 2022, that was in 2023. First is incorrect. Sometimes it can happen. A part of the statement will be correct, but the other part of the statement is incorrect. So do not get confused. Make sure that you read the entire statement carefully. It has two main pillars, namely Committee on Political Security, Social and Cultural Cooperation, correct? And of course, Committee on Economic and Investments, Economy and Investment. The first is incorrect, second is correct. India is the fourth country with which Saudi Arabia has an SPC. The others include UK, France and China. Okay, UK, France and China. So first is incorrect, second is correct, third is incorrect. One only will be the correct answer. Recently, Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud and Prime Minister of India Modi ji, they co-chaired the first summit level meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. And as I told you, India is the fourth country with which Saudi Arabia has an SPC. UK, France and China are other three. UK, France and China. Remember, because UPSC can ask us about this. The India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council was set up in 2019 and it was signed during the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia in 2019. The aim was to establish a high-level council so that our engagement with the Gulf countries remained. And trade, investment, security and defense cooperation are the four important pillars, of course. Also, the SPC has two main pillars. I have already told you about this. At the summit level, who will sit? The Prime Minister of India and the Crown Prince. After that, we have ministerial level, senior officials meeting and different joint working groups. Alright, this is how the SPC will work. With respect to Swami Vivekananda, consider the following statements. Before using Vivekananda, he took the name of Sachidananda. He organized the Ramakrishna Mission a year later after the passing away of his master. And he preached Neo-Vedanta, which is an interpretation of Hinduism through a Western lens. So how many statements given above is or are not correct? This is definitely correct that Vivekananda used the name Sachidanand. It was on the recommendation of Maharaja Ajit Singh of Khetri that he changed his name in 1893. In the same year, when he went to, give out his very famous speech. And that is important for us to know because sometimes UPSC can ask us these kind of questions. Gone are the days when you just have to remember the superficial level knowledge. You have to go in depth. So first is correct. He organized Ramakrishna Mission a year later after passing away of his master. Who was his master? His guru? Ramakrishna Paramhans ji, and he passed away in 1886. While when Ramakrishna Mission was established, it was after many years after it. When Vivekananda ji returned to India, he ensured that he went to every nook and corner of this particular country to understand the economic situation of the country and how important it is for spiritual enlightenment as well. So it was in the year 1897 when the Ramakrishna mission was established. And then he preached Neo Vedanta, which is an interpretation of Hinduism through Western lens. That is correct. First is correct, third is correct, second is not correct. One only will be correct answer because here we had to select the not correct one. So recently, that is yesterday only, it was on this very day when 130 years ago, Swami Vivekanand gave the very famous speech in Chicago. And he made sure that he showed the entire world how proud he is to belong from a religion that teaches tolerance. So we all have to become like that. We have to be tolerant. There will be difference of opinion. We cannot become hateful towards each other. It is important to be respectable and respectful, both the things. It is important to tolerate what other people think of you and what you think of other people. It's okay to have opinions. This is what tolerance is. Tolerance is very important for a country such as India because we are very diverse in nature. Vivekananda ji was born in Kolkata on January 12th, 1863 as Narendra Nath Dutt. From the very beginning, he had a lot of interest in Western philosophy, history and theology. He went to Ramakrishna Paramhans ji when he was very disturbed about, he wasn't having a good relationship with the spirituality. So he asked him many questions about the existence of God and all the things. And it was thereafter that he accepted him as his guru. He remained devoted to him until the latter's death in 1886. In 1893, he took the name Vivekanand after Maharaja Ajit Singh of Khetri state requested him to do so, changing from Sachidananda that he used before. He is specially remembered around the world for his Chicago speech in the world's religions in Chicago. That, of course, happened in 1893. And universal acceptance, tolerance, religion, all these were talked about. And that got him a standing ovation. After that, he went on to give different speeches in USA and UK. And this is an important excerpt from his speech. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal tolerance, but we accept all religions as true. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth. He began delivering lectures at various regions and he was known as the messenger of Indian wisdom to the Western world. Also remember that. He formed the Ramakrishna Mission in 1897 so that he could set in motion the machinery which will bring noblest ideas to the doorstep of even the poorest and the meanest. In 1899, he established the Belur Mutt, which became his permanent abode. Consider the following statements with respect to Bhatnagar Award. It is an annual award. It honors researchers below the age of 50 across 7 disciplines and it doesn't carry any cash prize. So what do we have to see? How many statements given above is or are correct? Recently, the Bhatnagar Award, after being held back for almost a year, for the year 2022, it has been released and there are 7 disciplines across which these awards are given. 12 people have been awarded and this also includes a cash prize of 5 lakh rupees. So third is incorrect on that matter and it is an annual award. Although for the year 2022, it wasn't released. So the 2022 award is being released this year. It honors researchers below the age of 45 across 7 disciplines. So remember the age is also important. Annual, correct. Second is incorrect. Third is incorrect. How many are correct? One only will be the correct answer. I've already introduced you with this. So why has it been established? This particular award has been established to honor the memory of the late Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar, who was the founder and the first director of the CSIR. In 1958, this particular award was established and it is given in 7 scientific disciplines, namely biology, chemistry, maths, physics, medicine, engineering, and earth, atmosphere, ocean, and planetary sciences. 2 outstanding researchers who are below the age of 45. Award also carries a cash component. Biology, who has won it? Ashwini Kumar, M. Madhika Subba Reddy. Chemistry, Akata Biju, Debabrat Maiti. Earth, atmosphere, ocean, and planetary sciences, Vimal Mishra. Engineering, Deepti Ranjan Sahu and Rajneesh Kumar. For mathematics, Apurva Khare, Neeraj Kayal. Medicine, Deepyaman Ganguly. Physics, Anindya Das and Basudev Das Gupta. UPSC can ask us to match this as well. So remember, it is important to remember certain facts as well. With respect to the eligibility for Indian citizenship by registration, consider the following. A person of Indian origin who are ordinarily resident in India for 7 years before making an application for registration. That means who will be awarded this particular registration under the Indian citizenship. A person who was married to a citizen of India and is ordinarily resident in India for 7 years before making an application for registration. And a person of full age and capacity who has been registered as an overseas citizen of India for 5 years and who has been residing in India for 1 year before making an application for registration. So remember this. Okay, whenever you are going to answer such questions, it is important to remember the small details. Citizenship is also very important recently because, of course, Seema Heather's involvement in this entire matter. So you could be asked a question with respect to citizenship like this also. How many statements given above is or are correct? Answer this correctly. I will take your names. Let me take the names of those students who have answered my last question correctly. Okay, so Simran has answered it correctly. Thank you, Kanika. Ria has answered it correctly. Mandeep, yes, being Shubham, it's okay if it was written Ganga dynasty because I added that he belonged to Eastern Ganga dynasty. If it was written Western Ganga, then that statement would have been wrong. Okay, Tejas has answered it correctly. Mansi has also given us many important points. Good work. Om has answered it correctly. Prabhat, Amandeep, thank you so much. Priyadarshan, Naveen, yes. Just watch Daily Current Affairs and make sure that you read editorials. Thank you, Sandeep. Then Padmashri has answered it correctly. Yash has answered it correctly. Vaibhav has answered it correctly. User, please write your names as well because I want to take your names. But if you do not write your names, I cannot take the username, which is very odd. Yes, Ankush, let me get back to you on this. Abhishek has answered it correctly. Nand has answered it correctly. Ritu and Muhammad, Pragati. No, Pragati. Sorry. All three are not. This is not the correct answer, Pragati. Utkal has answered it correctly. Vivek and Swayam has answered it correctly. Yes, Ankush. Yes, I checked and both the Asian Games 1951 and 1982 were conducted in India. Although the source that I picked for that question, it mentioned only 1982. That is why that question became wrong. Okay, so I will correct it in the PDF that I will give you. Also, make sure because I took that information from a government website. The thing is that a government website sometimes it can go wrong. I also found out one question with respect to Nataraj statue. That was from All India Radio. All India Radio suggested that it was 28 foot long, the Nataraj statue that has been installed in the Bharata Mandapam. But later on, from PIB, it was just 27 foot. So there can be a little differences, but I always make sure that I recheck it and correct it in the PDF or I tell you this in the class. So make sure that you also do the same. I also do the same. Most of the time it is the same. But because these are government websites, so we start, of course, because we are setting for government exam, so we start thinking about them to be correct. But yes, 1951 Asian Games as well as 82 Asian Games, both were conducted in India. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Answer this question as well.
StudyIQ IAS. अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।